On that note, actually, that's a good segue into where we're going today because what we are doing is Peace and Friends. We're going to learn a song today, and actually, we'll be able to apply all of the stuff that we've learned so far to it, which is really nice. Put it in practice and see how things fit together. So it's a vehicle for improvisation, and it's also, um, I don't know, you get to show off the skills that you've learned. I'm curious if anyone has heard the song Peace Peace before. Have you heard of the song? It's a very simple framework. It goes like this. I'll play it on the piano. So the one melody note I played is improvised, and then the rest is just a repeating figure. Um, Basically, these four hits, and that was already just like 4 or 5 times through the whole song progression. Um, the four hits are also pretty simple. Two of them are chords, but two of them are a single note each. So, what we'll do is repeat the figure, then become familiar with playing the four hits with only the left hand, which allows us to improvise with the right hand. But we can start with both hands. I'll just do that real quick, where we separate it and just play the bass notes with the left hand. So today we'll first learn Peace Peace, and then we'll add some variations and tricks to give ourselves additional places to explore. Um, Peace Peace was composed by the legendary pianist Bill Evans, and he played jazz. It was also hugely influenced by classical musicians such as Maurice Ravel, Claude Debussy, a lot of the Impressionists, um, which is another tie into France. Amazing. And you can hear it in the original song and the way he improvises with it. Um, I'll link the original song into the class playlist, and there's other songs that he uses the same pattern actually over, so you can hear it in different contexts too. There's a song called Some Other Time, and I'll put that in the playlist, and also a song called Flamenco Sketches, which he played with Miles Davis and John Coltrane, Cannonball Adderley. So all those I'll put in, and you should definitely listen to the original. This is like this is the homework. Like for our adventures, I kind of feel like that's not really homework. There, you can do them. Please do them. Actually, yes, please do them. But but this is like real homework. Like listen to this song, get a feel for the vibe and the atmosphere that he creates, and really like the empty space that Bill Evans travels through when he plays it, because there's so much of a there's so much of a journey, kind of a story through the song, and the way that Bill Evans starts with simple ideas, and then they get more intense and complicated, and then he returns to the peaceful beginning. But in the middle, there's a lot going on, and he introduces like all these notes that are outside of C major, even though the song is in C major. So that's really interesting too. So we'll go through the four hits. You can try these with me while I introduce them, and at the end, I'll show you the sheet music. But first, we can try everything with our hands and ears. Okay, so C major. The first two notes are simply G and then C in the bass. So I'll switch over to the piano. So it'll be G and then C. And what is this interval? Does anyone know?
A fifth.
It is a fifth. Amazing, thank you. Um, so then we'll play these two notes, and then we have two different notes, two different chords after this in the middle register. We can play them with the right hand for now. The first chord is a three-note chord. It's a C chord, specifically C major 7, and it looks like this. So we actually already have become super familiar with the B and the C, and we're also adding this E. Um, and so this is a C major 7 because fundamentally we have the C kind of sound from the previous note, but then we're adding the major third to get the sound of the scale or the C major mode, and then this major 7 is here. And then the next chord, and that's it, this is the last chord, is a G chord. This is the most complicated one. It has four notes. It's a G chord, specifically a G9 suspended, which you don't have to remember, but that might come up from time to time. So it looks like this, and I like to play with my thumb on these two, but you don't have to do that. You can play it like this. It's just a little like I've grown accustomed to doing this, especially because coming from here, my index finger is on the C, and so it stays on the C here. So you can play around with that. Um, but as you can see, this, I'm sorry, this C stays the same. So we'll keep this note, and then the other notes kind of expand outward, and then the E becomes an F, and the B, if you want to think of it this way, moves down to these two. And the G's on the bottom, it happens to be a G chord. So that's it. We move from here to here. And we'll go over this many times in the class still, so you don't have to make sure that you memorize it now or anything. And then that repeats. Now, I'll just have the view of it, the notes written here, if that helps anyone. The two chords, the three-note C chord, we have the middle C, E on the top, B on the bottom, and then the four-note G chord. So I'll just go through this on the piano at a slow pace real quick. Are there any questions so far? Cool. So now we want to moved to using the left hand to cover all the parts. And this is like the trickiest technical part of doing this song. So basically, it looks like this. So you might want to get used to playing these chords with the left hand. I think they're actually kind of easier in a way to play with the left hand, like as far as the hand shape goes, because here, now you can have the fourth and fifth finger on these two notes. But you can play around with it, see what feels comfortable for you. And I want to note on, like a side note, on the when you move to one hand, you might find that the pedal is useful because now we want to keep the bass notes ringing. We want to keep them ringing while we move away from here, so you still have that bass support when you play the chords. So the sustain pedal is helpful, but you want to clear the pedal for optimal results. You want to clear it between the two chords, because if you have the two chords in the same pedal kind of like mixed together, it'll start to get less clear what's going on. Now this is in the same pedal, and it kind of, now I don't know where we are harmonically. So ideally, you have the pedal, and then sometime between these two chords, I've cleared it. And then you can keep the pedal down at any of the rest of the time. So that's really the only crucial part. So that's a note on pedaling. And you can, pedaling is still optional, so you can start without it and try. It's a different sound. So you can try it totally like dry like that, and then add pedal in as you like. Okay, so now let's try. I want to give a tip for getting familiar with this left hand motion, and kind of a tip for practicing in general, because the best way to practice anything that we don't have technically under our hands, that we would like to, is by really targeting transitions. So I am definitely a believer that if you can nail the transitions, that's where the work is at. And I think that's true in life, in a lot of things too. Like when you see a professional doing like a sport, or just anything really, like anything that requires skill, if they can nail the transitions, you know that they've kind of worked on the craft. So that's what we'll do here too. There's 4 transitions corresponding to each chord, but because we cycle so that the last chord also goes back to the first chord, there's 4 of them. So the way to target a transition is you just cycle between those. So if I was going to practice the transition between the 2 single notes, it's just going between, and to see if I can make that smooth. And now I'll go between this note here, which is the C, and the C chord. This is when it starts to get less familiar if you haven't done this already. And as with a lot of, like, whenever you jump around on the piano, you'll probably want to get this to a point where it feels like not only that it feels smooth to you, but that it sounds smooth, so that you end up liking the sound And then we can do the transition between the two chords. So that looks like this. That might be the hardest one because there's a lot going on. And then we'll do the last one, which is this chord going back to the G. So we'll go. And notice that when I play the G, I actually should play it with my thumb because I'm setting myself up for then playing the C after. You don't have to do that, but it'll make your life easier if you get used to this. Okay, so if you can play the transitions, you can play the whole song. And I'm going to show what the piece sheet music looks like. So it's not like it's okay if you don't read sheet music. I'm showing this for a couple reasons. I mean, some of you do read sheet music, but it's just a visual aid because you can see that the whole song is one bar. It takes place between the two repeat markings. Those are the double bars, like kind of the thick bars. And in there, there's two single notes and two chords, which are kind of like where the clusters of many notes are happening. 3 notes and then 4 notes. And one thing you'll notice is that the C is there's a single note at the beginning of the bar and a single note at the very end, which is actually a clue because the C that we play, or actually, let me say it another way, the G that we play is the 4th beat, and then the C is actually beat 1. So when we play, and you might be able to hear it, you're kind of like, we come home when we go to the bottom note, C. 4, 1, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay. How are we feeling about this? Getting a thumbs up. That's cool. Awesome. So now, what does the right hand play over this pattern? Are there any guesses? The answer will be revealed now. Anything you want. Class is over. Thank you. We're done. So basically, Adventure 13 is exploring piece, and I'm going to give you a couple ways to do it. Now, especially since the pattern might be new to most of you, I'll ask you to try this. After class, you can kind of take your time to get used to the figure and try things with the left hand. I want to first ask you to freely try things with the right hand. So it could be single notes, it could be random chords, flailing motions like a fish out of water. We're in C major, so like all the white keys are potentially harmonious. But you can try the black keys too. And actually, when you listen to the original recording by Bill Evans, you'll hear that he ends up playing plenty of the black keys, starting from around like 3 minutes 30. And it's quite striking because suddenly he goes into this territory that you wouldn't necessarily think is part of the world of the sound that he's established before, but it expands the world, and that's quite fascinating, I think. Um, so first try just exploring with the right hand, seeing whatever you come up with. And then potentially you want to move on. And or you run into like a blank canvas issue where it's like, I don't know what to do. Like, you could do anything, so what am I going to do? I can relate to that. It happens to me all the time. So then after that, after like a free exploration, try on some different constraints. Like you're trying on a different set of clothes, one set at a time. Now, first we'll try some spatial constraints. So you can play melodies of single notes, and we treat each note as a character. I'll show you what I mean by that. So and then you can try sequences of notes. Um, Basically, we're gonna move the single ones, but kind of like string more of them together. And you can do this by picking randomly, kind of like what I did, but maybe closer together, um, or by being more systematic and like skipping one note, which would be if I go like this, skip one note, skip another note, skip another note. These are thirds. Or I could skip two notes. I'll come back down and skip one note. That can be interesting. Um, and then you can try intervals together, or chords. Try start with intervals. Fifths. Arpeggios. Fast, slow. So those are some constraints we can apply for the spatial, like visual realm, and then I'll give you some for time management too. So a world with open possibilities means when you choose to play the notes is what defines the atmosphere. I mean, what I just did, like there were so many choices in the time that I wasn't necessarily thinking of, but that's part of what's created. So um, in the constraints for time, I would start simply. We choose a note or a chord that you like, and then you try playing it only on one beat at a time. So you can first try timing them with the hits in the left hand. That's a total of 4 possibilities because we have these 4 hits. So let's say I'll play that fifth that I ended on. And I could choose another one. So let's say I play on the 1, 4. And now if I do a phrase of 2 chords, let's say, and I choose to play on the 1 and the 2. 1, 2. So that's 4 beats to play around with. You can play on some of the beats and not the other ones. Um, and I want to introduce another 4 to you. So in between each of the 4 beats are 4 other beats. And if we play only those, it sounds like this. So there's some familiarity with like just being able to do this with the hands, but you can start to hear where there is space for possibility the possibility of making music. Um, I want to show that visually. Here are our 8 beats. We counted 1, 2, 3, 4. A common way to count 1, 2, 3, 4 with the beats in the middle of them is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So here's a visual way of seeing that. And then if I'm thinking, oh, I want to try playing maybe just a phrase of 2 notes, and I'll play on the and of 2. That's the and that comes after the second beat. Uh, let's say I'll play on the and of 2 and the 3. That's what we have in the slide. Then those are the 2 beats that you'll hear. So I'll do a quick demonstration to play 4, 1, set it up, and I'll count the ands. 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3. For example. And so you can do that and choose 2 of them or 3 of them. Um, but it gets complicated fast. Like you could imagine if you chose 5 of these, that's quite a interesting rhythm that would take some getting used to. So that those are some ways to try narrowing down the field of what you can explore and then seeing if you find stuff. Now, all of these approaches are pretty analytical. So these are options you have to think about limiting what to explore so that the domain is smaller and more manageable. We also have a way that's not analytical, and that's with the voice. So I saw that reaction, Elisa. Amazing. So we explored some of that recently, and we're bringing it back. So try playing piece and hearing what comes through singing and hearing naturally, and then you find the notes. So actually last time we already started to become familiar with the notes of C over a drone. Oops, that's the wrong one. And so we're gonna actually do the same thing. It's just that we have a left-hand figure now. We play the left-hand pattern, and we sing what comes to the ear. And so it's a bigger challenge to execute the playing of it because you have the left hand figure to keep track of, but it's an easier time for hearing and singing because there's more harmonic, even rhythmic information for the ear to kind of add to an existing world. So la 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 la. So if I find a melody like that with the ear, la 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 la, then I can look for it with the keys on the piano. Um, and you can go one note at a time. We kind of went through a process of doing that before, so you can use that same process. Now, to recap, Adventure 13. I'd like you to compose or improvise something that goes along with the piece pattern. If you can have a rhythmic consistency to piece itself, the four notes, that would be great. And then what you play on top of it doesn't necessarily have to be rhythmic, but it might be easier if it is. And send me the recording. It's wide open canvas, so if you feel it's too big, then use your singing voice to guide you. Are there any questions? Or chill. Okay, now I'm going to show variations on piece for those who want more action, and this is going to get really interesting because I wrote up the notes to do this today, and I kind of added a mode that I never play, so it's pretty new to me too. So I think I'm gonna try it also. So first, before we do that, let's do one I've assigned a lot because I really like it. It's a C minor version of piece. So we'll go through that in a bit of detail, and then go through like some other variations in like a speed round and see what we can do with all of them, because then we can mix them together and stuff. So piece in C minor is exactly the same as the original, except for the C chord. So that's the first chord with 3 notes. So now it's a C minor chord, a 2 chord. I'll show what that looks like. It looks like this. I'll play with the right hand first. So now we have no C this time. We have an E flat, which is this, and we have a B flat, which is this one. You can try this with me too. Now, it's fun because we targeted B and E previously when we were first learning the B major scale. Like, we'll play all the black keys and B and E, so we know B and E. We're going to flat them, which means we pick the one note lower on the piano, regardless of mode. So that's here. So we flat both of them. So these are B and E flat, and we play D with them too. And then everything else is the same in the song. So actually, you'll move from here to the G chord, which is here. So this becomes our kind of new transition to get used to. So we kind of have a darker, to me it's like kind of a noir movie vibe somehow, like a more modern noir. So this is a new mode, C minor, and so the pattern shouldn't be too hard to get used to. Might take some work after you're used to the C major. I think more. I think maybe more of the work is in understanding this new mode because we haven't done it before. Um, Basically, you'll want to also figure out the transitions between going from the C to the C minor here. And then to get to know the shape a bit, um, it's the same. I mean, I recommend the same process that we've done before. So, first of all, the shape of the whole mode is we take all the white keys, which was C, and we just flat the B and the E. So instead of this, we have we move this down and we move this down, so it's like this. If we move it down, it's like that. So I recommend you go through this just a bit with the clusters, with fewer notes, 5 at a time, with the intervals, arpeggios. And you can also do it with scales. You can get used to new modes with scales, but clustering is faster because we are spatial creatures. So if you can really see that, it's kind of harder work in the beginning to do this each time, but I highly recommend it. So here's a C minor piece. So all those are notes in this mode. Continuing up. Yes, so you can play around with that. And basically, for Adventure 14, I would like you to try a variation on Piece, which I'm going to show you 2 other ones, or switching between variations. So here are 4 possibilities. We've gone over C major, which was the original, and we've also gone over C minor. Let me share where these are written. Let's see if we have. Does it show? I have to ask if these are visible, or do I need to zoom back in? It's not really like, yeah, I mean, I will link this PDF, and it's not, I'm definitely not assuming that everyone knows how to read it. It's just, it's there for you to see what the text is, and then you'll have this video as a guide. So basically, we have the original, and then also transposed back down to B. So we know, like, the sound of this is going to be pretty familiar. But it's quite pretty after you hear everything in C to modulate to B. And of course, like, the patterns are different for the hands. So could be all the black keys or fair game again for harmonious creations. For example. So now we have three, and then there's the C minor, which looks like this. And then I added a different one today, and it's the C Phrygian dominant. The name is whatever. These names get silly, but it looks like this. The bass notes are the same, and the two chords. The C chord has this variation on it. I'll play it first, actually, so that it makes sense all together. So that's kind of a crazy mode, and it's interesting because it's no longer a mode that kind of stays still. So everything, all the modes that we've had so far are kind of well defined. It's like this is the pattern they take, and um, and we name them, and then we know which notes are kind of like in the mode. With this one, there are a few notes that are kind of in it and kind of out of it, and I don't really know why it gets complicated in that way, but it's more of like what you hear becomes what works. So when we said earlier in another class, like if you can hear it, then you can play it. If you can sing it, you can play it. That's really what we're after here, because I have a major third, but then often the minor third will sound right over this. This note, but also in between. So all is to say that this is really a vehicle for you to, I mean, there is a pattern I'll give you that you can kind of start with, but this one really benefits from singing and seeing where notes are, because you might hear stuff that actually ends up working great, even though it's like kind of clashing and kind of dissonant, but also cool. And I'll just go through that on video so that you all have it and can reference it. Well, but first let me check in. If anyone has any questions, we can talk about stuff. Okay, so the C Phrygian dominant variation of Peace Peace looks like this. Bass notes are the same, and then the first chord is here. So we have also these two C major notes, and we add this D flat, and then for the G chord, it's actually quite similar to the original, and the minor, we just flat this A. And I would say that for the kind of the mode that is unlocked by this sound, it's generally this pattern here. But I would say that optionally, there's two other notes that sometimes sound interesting, and those are the E flat, which altogether it starts to get really crazy, especially the next one, because I would say that the B is sometimes in there too. So, and this is like this would be a crazy thing to to cluster. Oh, actually, it's this too. So it's even hard to play this with. It sounds really bad altogether. But that's what the crazy thing is about modes like this. And there's other ones where it starts to lose um, coherence in the model of chord and mode. That model starts to break down. This is more like coming from intuition, and what's possible is really what we can hear. So you can, I would recommend, if you want to get into this mode, by starting with the kind of the core of it, which is, and then just being open to other things that show up. If it's the minor third or the major seven, you can try that. So now you have it visually, so you don't necessarily need the sheet music. But those of you that can read, of course, you can check out the PDF. I'll have that with the show notes, class notes all together. And so for this adventure, the number 14, I want you to try something that's not in the original, so the minor variation, or to go to B major and play something in there, because it'll already be a huge exercise to do it in a totally different key. Um, or, or, in addition to playing piece, a variation of piece, I would love to hear some of you try to transition between these, because um, actually, as I've written it out on the paper, it's kind of a combined piece, even though it doesn't have to be this way or in this order. But for example, if I played all of these in a sequence, there starts to be a lot of movement, and it becomes a different song. Because let's say I start in C major. Oh, I should do all this without sharing, actually, too. I didn't realize. So without the PDF in the way, um, this the B looks like this, and the C Phrygian dominant looks like. So the last thing I want to show is moving between the modes, and the more experienced players in the class can give this a shot. So we'll start in the original. Modulate to B. So that's the idea. So there's a lot to play around with. You can really go to some different places or stick around in C major because there's so much. I mean, you'll see that in the original recording by Bill Evans, he just stays in C and goes all sorts of places. So that's the tasks. How are we feeling?
I really like this. It feels like a kind of a journey of exploration. And for someone who doesn't know any pieces, it feels like I can play a piece. So I'm looking forward to playing with it.
Amazing. Yeah, that's really the ideal. And it's I hope that it connects with the kinds of stuff that we have been doing in a way where you see how the concepts come together or fit together because that's I mean that's what I'm hoping for. So if anyone has questions along those lines, like, oh, I don't see how this connects to other things that we did, um, or sensing that maybe they do, but wanting more details on how it does connect, I'm super happy to jump in and and um, and see how we can make it clearer for you. Cool. I have a well. Are there any questions from anyone? Okay, nice. I have a adventure that Amanda turned in. That's so cool. Actually, I think there's a way to show both of them. There's well, she sent a whole bunch of things and they were all really great, and some of them just totally floored me. So I'm gonna see if I can pull it up real quick. Yeah, this one was great. There's one with the arpeggios, and then one with dancing, which was insane. So first the arpeggios. Let's see. I don't want to. I want to take my time or carefully doing this share because last time I did it and no sound came out. So share screen, share sound. That's like a rock song. I love it. And okay, so this was killer. This walking and clapping to CeeLo Green. Like, okay, so let's try this.
Yeah, that sure feel good. Hello, I go by the name of Simply CeeLo Green. How do you do? Welcome. I thought I'd seize this opportunity to tell you a little bit more about myself, if you don't mind. This is my vision. You know what I'm saying? Check me out now. I have plenty of material and numbers in rhythm, an entire ocean of emotion that's delighted to swimming. Also a forest of feeling, beating paths of peace. Left inside my soul, what I have to speak to release. Demanding from the pen, then a horse in the pen. The line between playing to win and sin this thing of the tie.
Pardon my awkward jumping around. I really wanted to show the puppy because that was, yeah, I really, that was the cherry on top. Um, Thank you so much, Amanda, for sending those. You really slayed the assignment. There we are. That's a wrap. Um, any parting thoughts? Anything? Okay, we're good. Thank you all for
Thank you.
tuning in and see you next time. Take care. Bye.